This is true for those of us with young kids, but also if you have adult children, you might be listening to this and thinking, oh, shoot, man, maybe I messed up, or maybe it's sometimes easy to feel shame. Truth is, none of us have done it right, and we've all messed up, but it's never too late. I think some of the things we feel shame feel bad about, it's not actually as bad as we think it is. And sometimes people will say, man, I feel so bad about this one thing. And then they go ask their kids and they're like, I don't even remember that.
Welcome to Metcalf Money Moment, the podcast. Unlock financial clarity and confidence with expert insights to achieve your goals. Hosted by Jeb Graham, Ethan Hutchison, and Eric Wymore. Each episode offers decades of combined expertise in wealth management, retirement planning, and more. Join us for practical strategies to inspire your financial journey. Now your hosts.
Welcome to Metcalf Money Moment, the podcast. My name is Jeb Graham. I've got co-hosts Eric Wymore and Ethan Hutchison on, and we have a very special guest today named Blake Brewer. So how are you guys all doing?
Pretty good.
Doing well. Glad
Thanks
to be
for
here.
having us.
Good, yeah. So Blake owns a company called, or a nonprofit called The Legacy Letter. And I had the privilege a few weeks back of going to see one of his presentations, and he's got a very, very powerful story. And this is one that we thought we've just now recently, Metcalf Partners has decided to partner with Blake on the Legacy Letter because he's got a really powerful story that he can tell to financial advisors and clients of ours that can hopefully utilize this thing. And we always talk about, Eric and Ethan and I were talking about yesterday, in our business, we kind of have twofold, right? We're working with clients. So we're doing the numeric aspect of people's financial plans. So, how much money do you have? When are you retiring? All that sort of stuff. But there's a whole nother kind of emotional side to our business with clients that and families that are, have kids, have grandkids that are wanting to pass down money sometimes, wanting to pass down wisdom sometimes. And I think, Blake, just talking to you and your story, I think maybe we can just kind of start on, what is the Legacy Letter? What motivated you to do it, and kind of what's the mission?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on today and partnering with us on this mission. We're on a mission to help 1 million people write at least one well-written, impactful, lasting legacy letter. Never in a million years that I think I would be on this mission to help people do this. But when I was 19 years old, I got it. So I was a freshman at the University of Arkansas. Go Hogs.
Nice.
And I got a call from my mom, and she said, Blake, we're going to take a family vacation to Hawaii. And I said, heck yeah, let's go. And so it was a few months later, we boarded the plane and the whole family's going. And man, I was so excited. First day there, we go snorkeling at a place called Hanauma Bay. And so everybody's on the beach except for me and my dad. And so it's just me and him out in the water. And to be honest, there was nowhere else in the world I wanted to be than right there in that moment. It was, I was really fortunate. I had a really good dad. He was not perfect, but he was still my hero. And so kind of a cool thing about my dad is, so he was a business guy, but long before that, he was a football player. So I know y'all are Chiefs fans up there, but my dad was drafted by the Falcons.
Hey, they're in the NFC. They're in the NFC, so we don't hate them, right?
Which I'm not a Falcons fan either. I will pull for the Chiefs or the Falcons. But my dad's main claim to fame is that he was Terry Bradshaw's tight end at Louisiana Tech. And
Nice.
so they were best friends and roommates.
Wow.
My dad was very humble, so he never told anyone about that. But I told everybody. It was like my claim to fame growing up. But we're out there in the water, and we just kept going further and further out. And we got in a really bad part called Witch's Brew. And the water was really treacherous. My dad and I got separated. I'm trying to look for him. I can't find him anywhere. Eventually, I see him. I could tell that he's struggling. I swim over there as quickly as I can. By the time I reached him, my dad was underneath the water. And he was unconscious. And so I dove down. I wrapped my arms around my dad. I brought him back up to the surface and began to swim with him to the shore as quickly as I could. But it wasn't too long into it where I was like, man, there's no way I'm going to make it. And in that moment, a nearby snorkeler showed up and began to help me get my dad to the shore. And then the lifeguard showed up. They brought him the rest of the way in, and they started doing CPR. And I'm sitting there next to my dad, and I felt completely helpless. And I'm like, I did the only thing I knew to do. I just cried out to God, God, would you please save my dad's life? And I really thought that at any moment my dad was going to come to, but he never did. And so my dad ended up drowning that day. And it went from one of the best days of my life to the worst in just a matter of minutes. I'm sitting there next to my dad's body, like, what the heck just happened? And began to ask myself some questions. How are we going to make it without my dad? How am I going to make it without him? And so fast forward a couple hours, now we're back in the condo. I just called my dad's parents, who were absolutely devastated, called his work, called our church, called some family friends. I'm the oldest son, so it was on me. My mom was in no condition to make these calls. We're just all in shock. I go to the back bedroom, and I'm sitting there on the edge of the bed, and my mom appears in the doorway and says, Blake, I found something in your dad's briefcase, something that I know he was going to give you on this trip. And she walks across the room and she hands me this letter from my dad. And I began to read that letter, and guys, I couldn't think of a better thing for me to get in that moment. I felt so loved. Like, do not tell me that my dad did not love me. In the midst of his busy schedule with everything going on, he put it down on paper. And so I can't imagine my life without this letter. In the coming days, in the coming months and weeks, I never felt so much pain in my life. And as I was grieving the loss of my dad, and really, there's a lot of ways my life could have gone looking back. There's some stories and some narratives that were starting to form, as we all do, about our life and different tragedies and different things that happen. And I could have had some stories that could have left me bitter at the world, bitter at God, a victim, needing to run to alcohol or drugs or whatever it might be to try to escape the pain that I was feeling. And it was, to be honest, it was the exact opposite that happened. I found my purpose in life, and I found hope that I was going to make it. And so, and I even had some professional counselors like tell me, Blake, you have grieved this in a very healthy way compared to most people. And I'm like, yeah, it's only because of my dad's letter. In the darkest moment of my life, man, my dad was there for me. Like, he gave me what I needed.
That's an amazing, I mean, the timing of that just in general is amazing, right? That was when he was going to give you the letter on that trip. And so, when you talk about grieving it in a healthy way, so you kind of made yourself a mission, right? Of like, this is something that completely turned a situation from, it's obviously a terrible situation, but it turned it from, I'm going to go into a dark place to now I'm going to go on a mission. And, maybe talk about that. Cause I know when I was watching you, speak a few weeks ago, just the momentum that you have behind this thing. And I remember just looking around the room, and it was like everybody's was just so focused on what you were saying. And you could just tell that everybody in the room also was thinking about their loved ones. If this would have happened to them, what would you want your kid to know, your child to know, your grandchild, whatever it is. And so maybe talk a little bit about the mission. No.
Yeah. So that was over 20 years ago, that I got that letter from my dad, and then he died. And so it wasn't until 5 years ago, though, when now I'm a dad, and I'm like, man, I want to be a good dad here. And I want to live for my legacy, and I want to speak truth into my children's life. I want to help them be confident and successful and be resilient, all the things that we want as a parent. And I see what's going on in the world, and some of the, I'll say, competition for my voice in their life. And it just kind of hit me like, I got to write them a letter. Like, I got to get these things into their heart. And that's what my dad did for me. And so it was really through the process of writing this letter. It hadn't even crossed my mind yet. Like, hey, we got to help other people do this. But it was through that process that it dawned on me. And I was like, wait, like, I see the impact this letter had on my life. And now because when I finished this letter, it felt unbelievable to have this done. And it was just like an incredible process that made me think about what I wanted to be true of my family, helped me know my children on a deeper level. And there was just a peace that came with having this letter done. And then it hit me. It's like, okay, we got to help more people get a letter like this. We got to help more people write it. And so that's where our mission really started.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine the day that I told my wife, like, hey, this is what I'm giving my life to, and I'm going to help people write it. And she's looking at me like, you're telling me you're going to provide for our family and our kids by helping people write a letter. And I was like, yeah. And number one, I believe that God was in it. And I was like, we're about to find out if he's in it. And what you experienced that day where people were like, man, locked in, like, oh yes, thinking about their family. Okay, I get it. Man, that's what, for the last 5 years, I've been able and had the privilege to speak to hundreds and probably thousands of audiences now, being able to share that. And even got to be on the Today Show and the Huckabee. Like turns out there's a lot of people out there that love their kids and love their families, and they want to make sure that there's nothing left unsaid. No, this is how I feel about you. And a lot of people think about, man, I wish I'd gotten a letter like this from my mom or from my dad. And so we've been guiding people. We created a process to help people write the letter. Because I believe everyone has a letter in their heart. We got to get that letter out of your heart to your mind, onto a piece of paper, and then ultimately into your loved one's life. And so a lot of people have written a letter before. I would say most people I've met actually have not written a letter, but some people have. And then a lot of people have written a letter, and it's, I would say it's not as complete as what a legacy letter has, all the elements in it. So the introduction section, the apology section, that I love you, I'm proud of you, I believe in you, special memories, the advice, and then the closing paragraph. And we really try to help people write it in a way that it can be received. Because I tell people, like, hey, you're about to write some amazing stuff here, but if you've got stuff blocking that, like there's a wall between you and them, this just happens between you and your children and your loved ones. And so we got to break down those walls. And so that's why that apology section is so important.
I remember walking through, and I thought you did a really good job of organizing it, because I do think that's a challenge for people. Like if you're going to write a letter like that, trying to organize your thoughts, trying to figure out what to say, get it down. It's hard. And I felt like you did a great job of taking someone through the process of, number one, what's really important to be in there. What are the important sections of the letter? And then also really taking each one of those sections and focusing on what you're going to say in that section. Cause I feel like if I was going to write that without guidance, I would just think about the letter as a whole, and I feel like when you break it down into those pieces, it just certainly makes it a little bit easier for people.
Well, yeah, it's like a couple years ago, we took a family trip out west and went to a national park, and we had a guide that took us on some of the trails. And it's like, man, you can go to a national park on your own and you can experience some of the beauty, but when you get a guide that takes you, it's like, hey, if you looked over there and they give you the history and they show you that, and look at that mountain peak and look at that, it's like, oh, wow. And so that's all I see myself as, just a guide.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm guiding you through the process, because I remember what I was like when I was looking at the blank sheet of paper, like what the heck am I going to write here?
Yeah.
And so really I'm just trying to guide, and then as I'm guiding, people are writing, and they can take it a number of different ways, but there's some things that we for sure want to make sure that are in this letter.
Yep. And I know, like for you, obviously you received it after your father had passed away. There's, any guidance on when, or, the timing of giving the letter? Because a lot of people may want to do it in their lifetime, not have it there for later or whatever. So what's kind of the deal there?
Yeah, I encourage people to give this letter as soon as possible. I just say, you brought up the fact my dad was going to give me that letter that way. He knew that his 19-year-old son needed those words in his life. And the thing is, I did. And I just remind people, I think we inherently know this, like how powerful our words are in our children's life. And so our words have the power to change their life. And so we want to make sure that these words are there. And I've talked to too many people that have said, man, I like this one guy, he wrote this legacy letter to his adult children, 3 sons, and an adult daughter. He gave it to them on Christmas morning, like pretty cool Christmas gift. And he put them in some boxes and put some family heirlooms in each one. His adult sons like loved reading how much their dad loved them, how proud he was of them. But then as his daughter, 31 years old, young mom, she reads the letter. She goes home that night and she calls back. Dad had gone to bed, so she gets mom. And she says, Mom, this is the best Christmas I've ever had in my life. And mom goes, well, we love having everybody here and hosting everybody. She goes, no, Mom, it was Dad's letter. I did not know how much Dad really loved me. She goes, Dad, I just thought he loved my brothers more than me because he's always hunting with them and fishing with them and going to sports games, going to Chiefs games. They're from Missouri. And she goes, but now I see how much Dad really loves. This has brought closure into my life. And I talked to her dad and I said, man, did you have any idea that your daughter was having those thoughts? And he said, man, I had no idea that she was having those thoughts. He said, the truth is we spent twice as much money on her as we did the boys. But the truth is, and it devastated him to think that, oh my gosh, like she didn't know, but it's been 2 years now and their relationship is better than it's ever been. And he's so glad he wrote the letter. And the truth is we're all telling ourselves a story about how much we love our loved ones, and they're telling themselves a story about how much you love them. And there's just no way this thing is matching up perfectly. And so this legacy letter is about getting the story right, leaving nothing to doubt. No, this is how I feel about you.
Well, there's always something about putting, from your brain to the pen to the paper, to get stuff out, get the words out, get what you want. And I'm as you've gone through kind of your process and you've got the apology section, then you got kind of the things that you're proud of or thankful for. What was the third section that you usually walk them through?
So there's the apology and the I love you.
Okay.
And so really help them understand the depth of your love for them. Like my kids, there's no way that they understand the depth of my love for them. But the more they understand that, the better they're going to be. And then there's, I'm proud of you, not for what you've done, but for who you are. We live in a performance-based society. And so we got my kids in sports right now. I'm really trying to help them, be the best athlete that they can be. But I'm at risk, and we all are, of making them think that my affirmation, I'm proud of them for what they've done. And man, we are setting people up when they do that to be afraid of failure because their identity is tied so much to their performance. And it's like, no, I'm proud of you for your effort, for how you treat people, those types of things, not for scoring another goal.
I think that's super important in this day and age. And like, you can even say that for our generation too, it was like, and I think if you think about when you were a kid, you thought a lot of kids think that people judge them or like them based on their performance in certain things. And I think that differentiation there is super important, especially when it's coming from a parent,
Yeah, and let me say this is true for those of us with young kids, but also if you have adult children, you might be listening to this and thinking, oh, shoot, man, maybe I messed up, or maybe it's sometimes easy to feel shame because, man, we haven't done it right. Truth is, none of us have done it right, and we've all messed up. But it's never too late, number one. And also I'll say, I think some of the things we feel feel bad about, it's not actually as bad as we think it is. And sometimes people will say, man, I feel so bad about this one thing. And then they go ask their kids and they're like, I don't even remember that. So, it's never too late to write this legacy letter. Yeah.
So can we talk real quick about our partnership with you as Metcalf Partners? A lot of our clients watch the podcast through, that we'll send them out via email. And so I know we've now partnered with the legacy letter, and that gives our clients the opportunity to go through that process, with your organization to write these letters. So can we talk a little bit about?
Yeah, I am so grateful for the people that have like you all have come alongside it. Like we've helped tens of thousands of people, equipped them to write this letter. And it's only because of great people like you that have come alongside us. And so, everything that you saw that day live, we have it recorded like an online course, we call it the Legacy Letter Masterclass. And so everybody listening today has access to the Legacy Letter Masterclass for free because of y'all. And so once they sign in, and you can get them the landing page and the coupon code, and they can start walking through section by section of me guiding them through writing their legacy letter. And a lot of people sit there. Sometimes they'll do it all at once. It takes about an hour and a half to listen to all the videos and go through them. Sometimes people break it up and they do it over several weeks. But as I'm talking, you're writing, and you'll be thinking of things that you wouldn't have thought of on your own. Something will come to your mind. I say, hey, write it down. You don't want to forget it.
Nice. I think that's a huge benefit, for sure. For our clients, I have a confession. I went to that. I can't remember when I saw you. I think it might've been November.
It
And
was.
I still haven't written my legacy letter. And I sat down and I started on it, and I was like, I'm going to try to get this done for Christmas. And, I think what you said earlier is the time to do it is right now, because you never know. And, so I've now got new motivation, and I'm excited to get this thing done. But what's funny is, as I've written it, because of your workshop and how effective that was, I have it all written down. Everything kind of spilled out that day, and it was great. Now it's just reorganizing it right into that letter.
So good for you. And that's what I tell people. So take a lot of good notes. Number one, this will help you now that you're coming back and finishing it up. But if something were to happen to you and they come find those notes, like they can piece it together and they'll be like, they will cherish, what you've written just as the notes. And I do tell people just to, just have the proper expectations with this letter. Like Jeb, you might give this letter and out of the gate, they might be able to communicate their appreciation for this letter, but chances are they're probably not.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that what you've done is in vain. For one, there will be a day that they cherish it for sure. And that's the day you die. Because they know that nothing else is coming. But also, as soon as you get this letter and these words into their life, the words start working in their life and influencing decisions that they're making and building their confidence. And so even though they can't maybe verbally communicate it, the letter is working.
Yeah. Do you have any age that you think it's the most effective, to give to a kid? Because I know obviously a 10-year-old is going to take and absorb that letter way different than a 20-year-old or a 17-year-old, right?
Yeah, I got a guy who just gave it to his 10-year-old, and then he's like, oh, she's kind of like, oh, okay, cool. And this guy's a good dad. So, to be honest, like, if he has not been in her life for 10 years, then all of a sudden he wrote this letter, she might have like broken out in tears. I don't know. But several months go by, and she was starting to butt heads with his wife, how a daughter and a mom can do. And so they had to discipline her and send her up to her room. Well, she comes back down a little bit later, and her attitude has completely changed. And they're like, man, what happened to her? Like, she's being nice and sweet. Well, then that night they, as he's putting her to bed, she says, Daddy, I came up here to my room when I was in trouble, and I looked over and I saw that letter that you wrote me. And I decided I need to read that again. And I realized that I just was not treating mommy the way I need to treat her. And his letter in that moment, man, it hit her at the right time.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question, I read my letter to my daughter when she was 4. There was a guy a couple months ago in Kansas City, actually, 99 years old. And he wrote the letter to his kids in their 60s. He's like, man, there's some things I got to get off my chest, and I know they need this. And I think he felt like he was getting close to the end at 99.
Yeah.
And so, but he did it. And it wasn't easy for him to do it. Like, it's not an easier letter to write. Like, the idea of writing a letter, oh, that's easy, a letter. No, this was the hardest letter you'll ever write. Like there's a reason you haven't finished yet, Jeb. Like, life's going on, things are busy. Like, it's an emotional thing to do. But it's so worth it.
Yep.
Got it. And we got to do it. And there's so much peace too that comes with it as well. Having finished. I can't wait for you to experience that, Jeb. And
the other thing is too, you can always refresh a letter, right? So meaning if you do it when they're 4, then you can write them another one when they're 15 and that sort of thing, that because life changes and
I would not use the word refresh. I would say write another one.
Yep.
And so it's like looking at it, like when you write it this year, you're documenting in 2025, this is how I felt about you. And this is my advice to you. I go back and read the advice I gave to my kids a few years ago, and I'm like, dang, that's some good advice. Like, I need that advice today. And so I put some memories in there. And so then, and I've written them several letters now. And so now I'll write them another one in 2025, and we'll always be able to go back and look, hey, this is this is how I felt about you in 2025.
That's awesome.
No, that's great. My kids are
No.
2 and 4, so I might wait a little bit, but
Yeah.
Well, you
but-
can wait to give it, but here's my,
Yeah.
but I would still encourage you to write it.
Yeah.
And I just say this because so our 4th child is 6 months old. The moment I felt, or we learned that he was in the womb, I started on the letter.
Cool.
And then he was born, and then I finished it up in the hospital. And the reason why is he is not promised to have me tomorrow. I know this more than anyone because of my dad. I'm like, we got to get something, because for the rest of his life, if something were to happen, he's going to wonder, okay, what did my dad think about me?
Right.
Because we all do. It's just like in our nature to wonder like what our parents thought about us, and it matters.
Yeah.
It matters what they think about us, and it matters what we think they think about us.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, cool. This has been awesome, Blake, and I'm excited. I'm super, super excited. I know we're all excited to partner with you going forward here, and it's obviously very fresh. It's the very beginning of the partnership, and we'll be rolling some stuff out for our clients as well. And it's been a lot of fun, and I'm not going to become an Atlanta Falcons fan just because of this.
So,
However, I'm glad that you don't hate us because we're Chiefs fans. So.
I'm actually a Saints fan, number one.
Okay.
I'm down here in Tulsa, so I do pull for the Chiefs as well, and my kids are pulling for the Chiefs.
I like the
so-
Saints. You can't hate the Saints. They're just kind of,
Yeah, it's hard.
Good one. So. Well, guys, thanks a lot. And this is Metcalf Money Moment podcast, and signing off.
Thanks for tuning in to Metcalf Money Moment, the podcast. We hope today's episode provided valuable insights to help you unlock financial clarity, confidence, and peace of mind. For more expert advice and resources, visit metcalfpartners.com. Until next time, make every money moment count.
Jeb Graham, Ethan Hutchison, and Eric Wymore are registered representatives with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through WCG Wealth Advisors, a registered investment advisor. WCG Wealth Advisors and Metcalf Partners Wealth Management are separate entities from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly.